Greetings, Eric Bakker, Naturopath. Thanks for coming back. Let's talk about bee venom. I got a question here from somebody. Is bee venom any good for Candida? And someone also is asking, is cupping any good? Which I'll explain in a minute. So let's put them together. Can bee venom or cupping be any good for Candida? All right, so that's this video. So as you may be aware, I'm a beekeeper. So I've got about 10 beehives at the moment. So bee stings are not unfamiliar to me. I may have already shown you some of my jars of honey. So we had a good honey crop last summer. I think we ended up with probably about 50 or 60 pounds of honey. So that's not bad. That was now to 10 hives because I've like doubled my hive production recently. I've split hives and created new ones. So getting stung is an occupational hazard with beekeeping. You're going to get stung if you keep bees. That's all there is to it. I mean, you know, if you've got a dog, you're going to eventually pick up stuff that you may not want to pick up, but you're going to pick it up sooner or later, if you know what I mean. And if you've got a bee, you can get whacked every now and then. So, but what I've discovered, very interesting in my own personal situation, now this is my 8th year of beekeeping, is I don't really notice the stings much anymore. I just posted this actually on a beekeeping page, Facebook page. So what I just read and understand now exactly what's going on and why this mystery occurs. What happens, and this is why I think bee venom is actually not bad for the average kind of person. So when you first get stung, your body produces a lot of histamine, a chemical which is going to act as an anti-inflammatory. It's going to counter that toxic response. Because I think phospholipase A, I think, is the name of the chemical. There are several toxins in the bee venom, and when the little barb goes in there and it injects, the trick is to get it out instantly with your fingernails, to whip it out. If you can get that barb out really quick, you're not really going to feel much, just a tiny itch. So that venom that goes in there provokes a histamine response. And the histamine response creates the redness, the swelling, the itching, and that ongoing pain in the butt sensation you get with the bee sting where you're itchy and you want to scratch it, especially if it's on your feet or something like that, right? So, you know, you've got a lot of lymphatic tissue in that area. You're going to get a lot of swelling. So the capillaries will leak fluid. It will puff up. It will become swelling, swollen, red, hot, itchy, all the kind of things that you associate with the bee sting. However, a study in Switzerland found out that when beekeepers get stung several times early in the season, initially they get a high histamine production, but eventually what happens is a part of their white blood cell system, the T cells, develop these cells called regulatory T cells, and that in turn will, knock that back. So that will knock that response back. So in fact, I got stung only about a week ago, and I barely noticed any kind of sensation at all with the bee sting, so which is quite interesting. I think it has a good boosting effect on immunity. Some studies I've read, especially Chinese studies, have shown that it's very advantageous for people with inflammatory conditions having bee venom. So we call it apitherapy or bee therapy. You've probably heard of eating honey, eating propolis, or having royal jelly, but apitherapy is the toxic venom therapy. Rheumatoid arthritis patients, for example, seriously benefit from bee venom, especially if they've got problems with their hands, But for Candida, I'm not sure. The jury's still out on that one. But it's not something I'd recommend for Candida. But if you are a beekeeper and you get stung, don't worry. It's only like 2% of the population that gets severe anaphylaxis and can die from bee stings. Probably about a little bit more than there would be with peanut allergies. But you can be desensitized against this. So you don't have to, suffer really bad or die from it. Now, cupping really is something that has been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years. It involves glass cups or plastic cups that they use now, I think. And how I remember, I think I did my first year in point location with acupuncture. I studied, and also I did a bit of cupping work there on some students, which was quite interesting. We had these little balls, and I think I had a pair of tweezers with something on the end that I lit, and I put the flame in the glass ball and then drop it down on someone's back. And what would happen, it would create a vacuum which would suck up the skin and the tissue under it, and would go up higher. Now that will create a circulatory condition for that person. It either increases or decreases circulation to that point. And when cupping is used on the traditional acupuncture points, it can have quite a significant effect on pain. But whether it's used for candida, I don't think really it's going to be useful for candida at all, the cupping. So, but some studies have shown it's beneficial for neck pain and other parts of the body, period pain, for example. So, and I think it's a lovely part of the acupuncture system is to have cupping as well. It's quite pleasant. It's different from hot stone massage, but you'll probably find it quite an enjoyable experience. So that's my 2 takes on the one on the bee venom and the one on the cupping. Thanks for tuning in. Click on the link below if you want my Candida report. Thank you.